Hannah Reid never expected a fresh start at Walker Ranch to lead to love, or to uncover secrets buried deep in its past. When she discovers that the man she's falling for is actually Luke Walker, millionaire ranch owner, can she trust his feelings are real? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. Hannah Reid pulled her beat-up truck onto the gravel driveway of Walker Ranch, nervously gripping the steering wheel. After 3 years of struggling to make ends meet in Chicago, the classified ad for a horse caretaker position had seemed like a gift from above. The promised salary wasn't much, but it included a small cabin on the property, no more overpriced apartment with paper-thin walls, and a landlord who forgot to fix the heater. As she stepped out of her truck, the crisp morning air filled her lungs. The ranch sprawled before her, more impressive than she'd expected. Well-maintained fences surrounded lush green pastures where horses grazed peacefully. The barn looked freshly painted, with equipment that appeared new and well cared for. "You must be Hannah," a deep voice called from behind her. She turned to see a tall man in a worn flannel shirt and faded jeans walking toward her. His face was tanned from working outdoors, with laugh lines around his eyes that suggested he smiled often. Those eyes, a warm hazel, studied her with friendly curiosity. "Yes, I'm Hannah Reid," she said, extending her hand. "Here for the horse. Caretaker position." "Luke Walker," he replied, his large hand engulfing hers in a firm handshake. "I work with the horses here. I'll be showing you around today." Hannah followed Luke to the stables, where the sweet smell of hay and the soft nickering of horses greeted them. She watched as he moved with easy confidence around the animals, gentle yet commanding. "Have you worked with horses before?" Luke asked, stroking the nose of a chestnut mare. "My grandparents had a small farm in Ohio," Hannah explained. "Nothing fancy, but I learned to ride when I was 6. After they passed, the farm was sold and I moved to Chicago. This is the first time I've been around horses in years, but it feels like coming home." Luke smiled, and something in that smile made Hannah's heart skip a beat. "Well, welcome home then." Over the next few weeks, Hannah settled into life at Walker Ranch. Her cabin was simple but cozy, with a small porch that faced east. Each morning, she'd sit with her coffee and watch the sunrise paint the sky in shades of pink and gold before heading to the stables. The work was hard but satisfying. By day, she fed, groomed, and exercised the horses alongside Luke. He was patient, showing her the routines and introducing her to each horse's unique personality. "This is Starlight," he said one afternoon, leading her to a black stallion stall. "He's a bit temperamental, but once he trusts you, he's loyal as they come." Hannah approached the horse cautiously, speaking in soft, soothing tones. To her, surprised, Starlight nuzzled her hand. "Well, I'll be," Luke said, eyes wide. "He doesn't take to most people that quickly." "Maybe he senses I'm not most people," Hannah replied with a small smile. Luke looked at her for a long moment. "No, you certainly aren't." Days turned into weeks, and Hannah found herself looking forward to the moments she spent with Luke. Sometimes they'd ride together in the early mornings, racing across open fields as the mist rose from the ground. Other times, they'd work side by side in comfortable silence, broken only by the occasional shared joke or observation. One evening, as Hannah was finishing her chores, she noticed Luke struggling with a stubborn fence post. Without a word, she grabbed a second sledgehammer and joined him. They worked together, matching each other's rhythm until the post was firmly in place. "Thanks," Luke said, wiping sweat from his brow. Not many people would jump in like that. Without being asked, Hannah shrugged. "That's how I was raised. You see someone who needs help, you help." "Your grandparents taught you well," Luke said. He hesitated, then added, "Would you like to join me for dinner tonight? Nothing fancy, just a thank you meal." Hannah felt her cheeks warm. "I'd like that." Luke's cabin was larger than hers, but just as homey. Books lined the shelves and a well-worn guitar stood in the corner. The meal was simple: grilled steaks, baked potatoes, and a salad, but delicious. They talked easily, sharing stories from their pasts. "So what brought you to Walker Ranch?" Hannah asked as they sat on his porch afterward, watching the stars emerge. "Have you always worked here?" A shadow crossed Luke's face. "I've Been here my whole life, actually. This land, it's in my blood. You must love it a lot, Hannah observed. I do, he said quietly. What about you? Do you miss the city? Hannah thought for a moment. Sometimes I miss the conveniences, but not the noise or the crowds. I feel more myself here than I ever did there. Luke smiled, and in the moonlight, Hannah thought he'd never looked more handsome. I'm glad you found your way here, Hannah read. As summer gave way to fall, Hannah and Luke grew closer. They began having dinner together several times a week, sometimes at his cabin, sometimes at hers. On weekends, Luke would show her different parts of the vast property, a hidden pond perfect for swimming, an old apple orchard where they picked fruit for pies, a hilltop with a view that stretched for miles. Hannah noticed things about the ranch that didn't quite add up. The equipment was too new, too expensive for what she'd assumed was a modest family operation. Sometimes Luke would take phone calls that seemed to be about business matters, far beyond what a ranch hand would handle. And occasionally, men in suits would arrive for meetings in the main house, a building Hannah had been told was used for ranch administration. Still, she pushed these questions aside, focusing instead on the joy she found in her work and in Luke's company. One crisp October evening, Hannah was grooming Starlight when she heard excited voices from the main barn. Curious, she led the horse back to his stall and went to investigate. A group of workers were crowded around a bulletin board where a newspaper article had been posted. Hannah caught snippets of conversation. Forbes list again, and net worth increased. What's going on? She asked Tim, one of the older stable hands. Tim looked surprised. You haven't seen the article? Luke made the Forbes list of richest under 40 again this year. Estimated net worth of $220 million now, up from last year. Hannah felt her stomach drop. Luke! Our Luke! Tim laughed. Walker Ranch isn't just a name, Hannah. The Walkers have owned this land for 4 generations. Luke inherited it all when his parents died 10 years ago. He's turned it into one of the most successful agricultural businesses in the state. Hannah's mind reeled as she walked back to her cabin. Luke wasn't just another ranch hand. He was her boss, the owner of everything around her. Why hadn't he told her? All those evenings sharing meals and stories, all those moments when she'd thought they were connecting as equals. Had it all been some kind of game to him? She was still sitting on her porch, trying to process this revelation when she heard footsteps approaching. Luke appeared, holding a bottle of wine and wearing a boyish grin that faltered when he saw her expression. Hannah, what's wrong? She stood, crossing her arms. Were you ever going to tell me who you really are? Luke's face fell. You found out. Not from you, Hannah said, her voice tight with hurt. Why did you lie to me? All this time, letting me think you were just another worker here when you own the whole place. I never actually lied, Luke said, setting the wine bottle down. I just didn't correct your assumption. That's the same thing. Hannah felt tears threatening, but blinked, then back. Why, Luke? Was it funny to you watching me work my fingers raw while you're worth millions? No, God no, Hannah. Luke stepped toward her, but she moved back. It wasn't like that at all. Then what was it like? Help me understand, because right now, I feel like our whole friendship was built on a lie. Luke ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in every line of his body. When you first arrived, I was going to tell you, but then you treated me like a normal person. Do you have any idea how rare that is in my life? People either want something from me or they're intimidated by the money. With you, it was just real. Real? Hannah laughed bitterly. There's nothing real about hiding such a huge part of your life. The man you got to know is the real me, Hannah. Not the bank account, not the business empire, just me. Luke, who loves horses and playing guitar and watching the sunrise with you. Hannah felt her resolve weakening but steeled herself. I need some time to think, Luke. This is a lot to process. Luke looked like he wanted to argue but nodded instead. I understand. Just please don't make any decisions tonight. Give me a chance to explain everything properly. He hesitated, then added, I was bringing the wine because I wanted to celebrate with you. The North Pasture expansion was approved today, the one you helped design. I value your input, Hannah, I always have. After Luke left, Hannah sat alone for hours, replaying every interaction they'd had in this new light. She thought of his kindness, his willingness to work alongside everyone else, despite not needing to, the way he treated every person on the ranch with respect. Was that the real Luke? Or was there more she didn't know? As the moon rose higher in the sky, Hannah made a decision. She would hear him out, but she needed to protect her heart. Because somewhere along the way, without her even realizing it, she'd begun to fall in love with Luke Walker, a man who, it turned out, she barely knew at all. The next morning dawned cold and grey, matching Hannah's mood. She went about her chores mechanically, avoiding the main areas where she might run into Luke. But as she finished feeding the horses in the south stable, she heard the unmistakable sound of an expensive car pulling up outside. Curiosity getting the better of her, Hannah peered out to see a sleek black Mercedes parked in front of the main house. A woman stepped out, tall, blonde, and dressed in clothes that probably cost more than Hannah made in a month. She watched as the woman approached the house with the confidence of someone who belonged there. A moment later, Luke emerged onto the porch. The woman threw her arms around him in a familiar embrace, and Hannah felt her heart sink. Of course, someone like Luke Walker would have a glamorous girlfriend from his own world. The woman was probably just another secret he hadn't bothered to share. Turning away from the scene, Hannah made a decision. She'd hear Luke out as she'd promised, but she needed to remember the reality of their situations. He was Luke Walker, millionaire ranch owner with a life she knew nothing about, and she was just Hannah Reed, a horse caretaker who'd foolishly begun to dream of something that could never be. What she didn't see as she walked away was Luke gently disentangling himself from the woman's embrace, his eyes searching the property for a glimpse of the only person he truly wanted to see. Hannah avoided Luke for the next 2 days, switching her schedule to work when she knew he'd be busy elsewhere. The hurt of his deception still stung, made worse by the image of that beautiful blonde woman in his arms. On the third morning, she was surprised to find a note slipped under her cabin door. "Hannah, please meet me at the East Barn at noon. I owe you the whole truth." Luke, she debated ignoring it, but curiosity and something deeper, something she wasn't ready to name, made her fold the note and put it in her pocket. At precisely noon, Hannah approached the East Barn. It was rarely used this time of year, which meant they'd have privacy. She found Luke waiting by the entrance, hands in his pockets, looking more nervous than she'd ever seen him. "You came," he said, relief evident in his voice. "I said I'd hear you out," Hannah replied, keeping her tone neutral. "So talk." Luke gestured toward the barn doors. "I want to show you something first." Inside, Hannah was surprised to find the space transformed. The usual farm equipment had been moved aside, and in the center sat an old wooden table, set with a simple lunch. Fairy lights hung from the rafters, giving the barn a soft glow. "What is this?" she asked. "Neutral ground," Luke said. "Not your cabin, not mine. Just a place where we can talk honestly." Hannah hesitated, then sat down. Luke took the seat across from her, not touching the food. "First, about the other day," he began. "The woman you saw was Melissa, my sister." Hannah felt her cheeks flush with embarrassment. "Your sister?" "Half-sister, technically. We have different mothers. She lives in New York and visits a few times. A year, usually, when she wants something." Luke ran a hand through his hair. "She's the opposite of me, loves the spotlight, the social scene, all the things that come with the Walker name." "And you don't?" Hannah asked, skeptically. "No, I don't. I never have." Luke's eyes met hers. "My father was a businessman first, rancher second. He expanded Walker Holdings into agriculture technology, real estate, even a chain of organic markets. When my parents died in a plane crash, I inherited everything." "At what age?" 23, I'd just finished college." Luke's expression darkened. "Suddenly everyone wanted something from me. Business partners, so-called friends, women I'd never met claiming they loved me." He laughed bitterly. "You know what I discovered? Money doesn't just change you. It changes how everyone sees you." Hannah felt her anger softening despite herself. "So you hide who you are?" "Not exactly. Everyone who works here knows I'm the owner. Don't advertise it. I work alongside my employees because I love this land, these animals. It's not an act. Hannah, but you deliberately let me believe you were just another ranch hand, Hannah pointed out. Luke nodded. That first day, when you assumed I was a worker here, I planned to correct you. But then you spoke about your grandparents' farm with such genuine feeling, and you looked at me, not my wallet, and I just couldn't. He reached across the table, not quite touching her hand. The more I got to know you, the harder it became to tell you. I was afraid you'd change toward me, that I'd lose the one person who saw me for who I really am. Hannah wanted to believe him, but doubt still lingered. What about all those business meetings at the main house? The men in suits? Running Walker. Holdings requires meetings, yes, but I've scaled back the business side as much as possible. My passion is this ranch, the land, the animals. His eyes softened. And lately, the people. Hannah looked away, afraid of what he might see in her expression. I still don't understand why you think I'd treat you differently. Because everyone does, Hannah. Everyone. The pain in his voice was unmistakable. Do you know how many people have pretended to care about me just to get close to my money? How many women have claimed to love the real me while eyeing the lifestyle? Hannah thought about this. She'd seen enough in Chicago to know people could be opportunistic. Still, the deception hurt. I need you to understand something, she said finally. I grew up with grandparents who had almost nothing but gave everything. They taught me that a person's character matters more than their possessions. I would never have judged you for having money, Luke, but I do judge you for not trusting me with the truth. Luke winced. You're right, I'm sorry, Hannah, truly sorry. They sat in silence for a moment, the tension between them thick with unspoken feelings. I have one question, Hannah said finally. Why did you hire me? Was it because you liked me? Luke shook his head. Tim hired you. He handles stable staff. I didn't meet you until your first day. A small smile touched his lips. But I'm glad he did. Hannah nodded, processing this. At least she hadn't gotten the job through some hidden favoritism. Where do we go from here? Luke asked, his voice uncertain. Hannah took a deep breath. I need time, Luke. This is a lot to take in. I'm not saying I can't forgive you, but I need to know I can trust you moving forward. I understand, he said, disappointment clear in his eyes. No more secrets. From now on, you get all of me. The good, the bad, and the unfortunately wealthy. Despite herself, Hannah smiled. I should get back to work. Of course, Luke stood. For what it's worth, these past months with you have been the happiest I've had in years. Hannah felt her heart flutter, but kept her expression neutral as she left the barn. She had a lot to think about. The following week was busy as the ranch prepared for the annual fall festival, an event Hannah now understood was much more than a simple gathering. According to Tim, hundreds of people from surrounding counties attended, with proceeds benefiting local agricultural education programs. Hannah threw herself into the preparations, helping to decorate the main grounds and prepare the horses for the exhibition rides. She saw Luke occasionally, always from a distance. He respected her request for space, though she sometimes caught him watching her with longing in his eyes. 3 days before the festival, disaster struck. Hannah was in the main stable when she heard shouting from outside. She rushed, out to find chaos. A small fire had broken out in the storage building and was spreading quickly toward the hay barn. Without thinking, Hannah grabbed a nearby hose and ran toward the blaze. Workers formed a bucket chain as Luke directed operations, his voice calm despite the danger. For over an hour they fought the fire, until finally the local fire department arrived and extinguished the remaining flames. Exhausted and soot-covered, Hannah leaned against a fence post, catching her breath. Luke approached, his face streaked. With ash. Are you okay? He asked, genuine concern in his voice. Hannah nodded. Just tired. How bad is the damage? We lost the storage building and some equipment, but everyone's safe. That's what matters. He hesitated. You were incredible, Hannah. Running toward the fire like that. You helped save the hay barn. Anyone would have done the same. She said? No, Luke said firmly. Not everyone runs toward danger to help others. You did that without hesitation. Their eyes met, and for a moment the tension between them dissolved. They were just two people who had faced danger together and come through it. "Thank you," Hannah said softly. Luke smiled, that warm, genuine smile she'd missed these past days. "We make a good team, Reed." "Maybe we do, Walker," she replied, allowing herself to return his smile. As Luke walked away to check on the cleanup efforts, Hannah felt something shift inside her. The man who had organized the fire response, who had put his workers' safety above property damage, who looked at her with such genuine appreciation, that was the Luke she had come to care for. Wealthy or not, that part of him was real. The next day, as Hannah was helping rebuild shelving in the undamaged part of the storage area, a sleek car pulled up. The blonde woman, Melissa, Luke's sister, stepped out, looking entirely out of place in her designer clothes and high heels. "You must be Hannah," she said, approaching with a curious look. "Luke mentioned you." Hannah brushed dust from her hands. "Yes, I'm Hannah Reed. Melissa Walker Thompson." She offered a manicured hand. "I was hoping to speak with you, actually." Wary, but polite, Hannah agreed to take a short break. They walked to a bench near the garden, far enough from the workers to have privacy. "My brother is quite taken with you," Melissa said without preamble. "I've never seen him like this over a woman." Hannah felt her cheeks warm. "Luke and I are just friends." Melissa raised a perfectly shaped eyebrow. "Please, I've known my brother his entire life. He lights up when he talks about you." "If you're here to warn me away," Hannah began. "Quite the opposite," Melissa interrupted. "I came to apologize for my behavior the other day. Luke told me about your misunderstanding. I can be a bit dramatic with my greetings." Hannah didn't know what to say to that. "Look," Melissa continued, "my brother has dated socialites, business partners' daughters, even an actress once. None of them saw past the Walker fortune." She studied Hannah. "But you're different, aren't you? You're angry he hid his wealth." "Not excited by it. I'm angry he wasn't honest with me," Hannah clarified. "Which proves my point," Melissa said with a satisfied smile. "You care about him, the real him." Hannah sighed. "It's complicated. Life usually is." Melissa stood, brushing invisible dust from her skirt. "Just so you know, I approve. Luke needs someone who values what's truly important. Now I must find my brother. We have a charity gala to discuss." As Melissa clicked away on her expensive heels, Hannah sat in thought. The conversation hadn't gone as expected. If Luke's sister, who clearly benefited from the Walker wealth, approved of her, perhaps she was misjudging the situation. The day of the fall festival arrived, and Hannah was busy from dawn, helping with last-minute preparations. By noon, the ranch grounds were filled with visitors enjoying hay rides, petting zoos, and food stands. Hannah led pony rides for children most of the afternoon. She was so focused on her task that she didn't notice Luke approaching until he was beside her. "You're a natural with the kids," he said, helping a little girl dismount. "I've always loved working with children," Hannah replied. "My dream was to run therapeutic riding programs someday." Luke looked at her with interest. "You never mentioned that before. There's a lot we haven't shared with each other," Hannah said, but her tone was gentle, not accusatory. Luke nodded thoughtfully. "Would you walk with me? There's something I want to show you." Curious, Hannah asked another worker to cover for her and followed Luke away from the festival crowds. They walked toward a part of the property she hadn't visited before, eventually stopping at a beautiful meadow overlooking a small lake. "What is this place?" Hannah asked. "My favorite spot on the entire ranch," Luke said. "I come here to think, to reconnect with why I love this land." Hannah took in the peaceful scene. "It's beautiful. I've been thinking about what you said about therapeutic riding programs." Luke turned to her, his expression earnest. "The Walker Foundation funds several community initiatives. We've been looking for a new project focused on children." Hannah felt her heart rate quicken. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying we have the resources to create something meaningful here, a program that could help kids who need it." He took a step closer. "And I'm saying I need someone who understands both horses and people to lead it. Someone with compassion and skill." "Luke," "This isn't about us, Hannah," he said quickly. "Even if you never forgive me, this is a good idea, the right idea." Hannah stared at him, suddenly seeing clearly what she'd been missing. This man, wealthy or not, had a genuinely good heart. He wanted to use his resources to help others, and he recognized her skills in a way no one else ever had. "I need to know," she said softly. "Is this opportunity because you have feelings for me, or because you truly believe I'm qualified?" Luke met her gaze steadily. "Both. I won't lie to you again, Hannah. Yes, I have feelings for you, strong ones, but I would never offer you this position if I didn't believe completely that you're the right person for it." Hannah took a deep breath. "I need to think about it." "Of course," Luke nodded. "Take all the time you need." As they walked back toward the festival, their hands brushed accidentally. Hannah didn't pull away, and after a moment, Luke gently took her hand in his. They didn't speak, but something had changed between them. A new understanding, a possibility neither had dared hope for. Back at the festival, Luke was called away to address the gathering crowd. Hannah watched from a distance as he took the microphone, thanking everyone for coming and announcing the day's fundraising total, over $50,000 for agricultural education scholarships. Seeing him in this role, confident, generous, using his position to help others, Hannah realized something important. The man she had come to care for wasn't just the Luke who worked alongside her in the stables. He was also this Luke, the one who used his resources responsibly, who cared about his community, who wanted to make a difference. As the festival wound down and sunset painted the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, Hannah made a decision. She would accept Luke's offer to develop the therapeutic riding program, not because of her feelings for him, but because it was an opportunity to fulfill a dream she'd thought impossible. And as for those feelings, perhaps it was time to give Luke Walker, the real Luke with all his complexities and yes, his wealth, a chance to prove that what they'd begun to build together was genuine. What Hannah didn't know was that Luke had one more secret, one that would test their fragile new beginning in ways neither could imagine. 2 weeks after the fall festival, Hannah sat in Luke's office in the main house, surrounded by plans for the therapeutic riding program. What had started as a simple idea had quickly evolved into a full-fledged project, with Hannah at its center. "If we renovate the south stable," Luke was saying, pointing to a blueprint spread across his desk, "we can create a space specifically designed for children with special needs, wider aisles, specialized mounting equipment, a climate-controlled classroom." Hannah looked at the plans with growing excitement. "This is more than I ever imagined possible." "Is it too much?" Luke asked, concern in his eyes. "I don't want to overwhelm you." "It's not too much," she assured him. "It's perfect. I just can't believe how quickly everything is happening." Luke smiled. "When I see a good opportunity, I move fast. It's the businessman in me." Their eyes met and Hannah felt the now familiar flutter in her stomach. Over the past weeks, as they'd worked together on the program plans, they'd grown closer again. The hurt of his deception had faded, replaced by a deeper understanding of who Luke truly was, a complex man with responsibilities he hadn't asked for but handled with grace. "Speaking of moving fast," Luke said, breaking their gaze, "the Walker Foundation board wants to meet you next week. They're excited about the program." Hannah felt a flash of anxiety. "The board? Who's on it?" "Mostly family. Melissa, my Uncle Robert, a couple of cousins, and our family lawyer, James Harrington." Luke reached across the desk and squeezed her hand. "Don't worry, they'll love you." Hannah wasn't so sure. Meeting Luke's family felt like a significant step, one that acknowledged their relationship was becoming more than professional. "Will they take me seriously?" she asked. "I'm not exactly from your world. That's precisely why they'll respect you," Luke assured her. "You know horses and you understand people. That's what this program needs, not another business executive." Hannah nodded, trying to believe him. "When is the meeting?" "Next Thursday. Dinner at the main house." Luke hesitated. "Actually, I was hoping you might consider staying here for a few days next week. Some board members are coming from out of town, and it would be easier to coordinate if you were close by." "Stay here? In the main house?" Hannah tried to keep the apprehension from her voice. "We have plenty of guest rooms," Luke said quickly. It's a big place, Hannah agreed, though the thought of staying in the mansion made her nervous. Her small cabin had become home, its simplicity a comfort. The main house, with its imposing stone facade and manicured gardens, remained foreign territory. Later that day, as Hannah exercised Starlight in the training ring, she noticed a black SUV pull up to the main house. A tall, distinguished-looking man in an expensive suit emerged, carrying a leather briefcase. He stood for a moment, surveying the property with an expression Hannah couldn't quite read. She was so distracted watching him that she didn't notice Starlight sidestep until it was too late. Hannah lost her balance and fell, landing hard on her side. The impact knocked the wind from her lungs and she lay still for a moment, gathering herself. "Are you all right?" a concerned voice called. The man from the SUV was hurrying toward the ring. "I'm fine," Hannah said, standing and brushing dirt from her clothes. "Just careless." The man entered the ring cautiously, eyeing Starlight with respect. "That's a spirited animal. You must be skilled to handle him." "Usually I am," Hannah admitted. "I got distracted." The man smiled. It was a practiced smile that didn't reach his eyes. "James Harrington," he introduced himself, extending his hand. "I'm the Walker family attorney." "Hannah Reed," she replied, shaking his hand. "I work with the horses." Something flickered in Harrington's eyes. Recognition, followed by an assessing look that made Hannah uncomfortable. "Ah, Miss Reed, I've heard about you." His tone was smooth, professional. "Luke mentioned you're developing a new program for the foundation." "Therapeutic riding for children with special needs," Hannah confirmed. "A worthy cause." Harrington nodded. "Luke has always had a compassionate streak. It's admirable, if occasionally impractical from a business perspective." Hannah bristled at his tone. "I don't see anything impractical about helping children." "Of course not," Harrington said smoothly. "I simply meant that Luke sometimes leads with his heart rather than his head. It's something his father worried about." Before Hannah could respond, Luke appeared, walking briskly toward them. "James, I didn't expect you until tomorrow." "I finished in Denver early and thought we might get a head start on the contracts." Harrington turned to Luke with a deferential nod. "I see you've been making changes without consulting me again." Luke's expression remained pleasant, but Hannah noticed tension in his jaw. "Hannah, would you excuse us? James and I have some business to discuss." Hannah nodded, leading Starlight back to the stables. As she walked away, she heard Harrington say, "Luke, we need to talk about this new project of yours. The board has concerns." The rest was lost as they moved toward the house, but Hannah felt uneasy. Clearly not everyone was as enthusiastic about the therapeutic riding program as Luke had suggested. That evening, Hannah was surprised by a knock at her cabin door. She opened it to find Melissa, looking stylish, even in casual clothes. "Sorry to drop by unannounced," Melissa said. "I came down early for the board meeting. Mind if I come in?" Hannah hesitated, then stepped back to allow Luke's sister inside. Melissa glanced around the small cabin with curiosity rather than judgment. "Charming," she said. "Reminds me of the summer camp I hated as a child." Hannah laughed despite herself. "Can I offer you something to drink? I have water, coffee, or—" She checked her small refrigerator. "One beer." "I'm fine, thanks." Melissa settled onto Hannah's small sofa. "I wanted to warn you about something. Or rather someone, James Harrington." Hannah's interest sharpened. "The lawyer. I met him today. James has been the Walker family attorney for 30 years. He was my father's closest advisor and considers himself the guardian of the family legacy." Melissa's perfectly manicured nails tapped against her knee. "He doesn't approve of your program." "Why not?" "Luke says the foundation has more than enough funding." "It's not about money," Melissa explained. "It's about control. James thinks Luke is too easily influenced, and frankly, he's suspicious of you." Hannah frowned. "Me? Why?" "You're an unknown entity, a woman who appeared from nowhere and now has Luke's ear." Melissa's expression softened. "I know you're not after my brother's money, but James views everyone as a potential threat." "What should I do?" Hannah asked. "Be prepared. At the board meeting, James will question your qualifications, your background, possibly even your motivations." Melissa stood. Just be yourself. That's what won Luke over, and it will work with the rest of the board. After Melissa left, Hannah sat thinking about the warning. She'd been naive to believe establishing the program would be simple, even with Luke's support. She was entering a world of family politics and old loyalties that she didn't fully understand, the sea. Following Monday, Hannah moved temporarily into the main house. Her room was larger than her entire cabin, with a 4-poster bed and views of the mountains. It was beautiful but intimidating, filled with antiques that looked too delicate to touch. Over the next few days, other board members arrived. Luke's Uncle Robert was a jovial man who immediately put Hannah at ease with his straightforward questions about the program. 2 cousins, Caroline and Daniel, were polite but reserved, clearly waiting to form opinions. James Harrington remained, coolly professional, though Hannah often caught him watching her with calculating eyes. During preliminary discussions, he raised pointed questions about the program's costs and Hannah's lack of formal credentials. Miss Reed has practical experience with horses, he noted during one meeting, but no degree in special education or therapy. Is she qualified to develop a program of this magnitude? Before Hannah could defend herself, Luke intervened. Hannah will partner with certified therapists. Her role is program development and equine management, areas where her experience is invaluable. Harrington backed down, but Hannah sensed the matter wasn't settled. The night before the formal board meeting, Hannah couldn't sleep. She slipped out of her room and wandered downstairs, finding herself in a large study lined with books. A fire burned low in the fireplace, casting warm light across leather chairs and a desk covered with papers. Couldn't sleep. Luke's voice came from a shadowed corner. Hannah startled. "You scared me. What are you doing sitting in the dark?" Luke moved into the light, looking tired but smiling. "Reviewing financial reports, not exactly bedtime reading." Hannah approached, noticing the stacks of documents. "Is everything okay? With the business, I mean." Luke hesitated. "Not entirely. Walker Holdings has some challenges right now. Nothing for you to worry about." Is that why Harrington seems so against the riding program? Financial reasons? Partly, Luke admitted. "We've had a rough quarter. A development project in Colorado fell through and we lost a significant investment." Hannah felt a twinge of guilt. "Maybe we should postpone the program then." "Absolutely not." Luke's voice was firm. "The foundation has separate funding, and this program matters. It's the kind of legacy I want to build, Hannah, not just more buildings or bigger profits." He reached for her hand, pulling her gently to sit beside him on the leather couch. "Tomorrow the board will approve your program. I'm certain of it." "How can you be so sure?" Harrington clearly has doubts. "Because I'm still the majority shareholder," Luke said with a smile. "And because once they hear your presentation, they'll understand why this matters." Hannah rested her head on his shoulder, drawing comfort from his certainty. "Thank you for believing in me. Always," he whispered, pressing a kiss to her temple. The moment was interrupted by the study door opening. James Harrington stood there, surprise quickly masked by his professional demeanor. "Excuse me," he said stiffly. "I didn't realize anyone was here." Luke straightened but didn't release Hannah's hand. "Did you need something, James?" "Just some files for tomorrow's meeting." Harrington stepped in, retrieving a folder from the desk. "Miss Reed, I suggest you get some rest. Tomorrow will be rigorous." After he left, Hannah sighed. "He really doesn't like me." "James is protective of the family. He'll come around." Luke squeezed her hand. "Go get some sleep. Tomorrow is your day to shine." The board meeting began promptly at 10 the next morning in the mansion's formal dining room, now transformed into a conference space. Hannah sat beside Luke at the head of the table, trying to appear more confident than she felt. After preliminary business, Luke introduced Hannah's presentation. She spoke from the heart about the benefits of therapeutic riding, showing photos and videos of similar programs. She outlined their implementation plan, budget, and expected outcomes. When she finished, there was a moment of silence before Uncle Robert spoke up. "I like it. Solid plan, clear benefits, reasonable costs." Caroline nodded. "The foundation was established to make a difference in people's lives. This does exactly that." James Harrington cleared his throat. While the concept has merit, I have concerns about timing, given the current financial situation, which the board doesn't need to address today, Luke interrupted firmly. The foundation funds are separate and adequate. There are also questions about Miss Reed's qualifications, Harrington persisted. Hannah straightened in her chair. Mr. Harrington, I understand your concerns. I don't have formal credentials in therapy, which is why our plan includes partnering with licensed professionals. What I bring is 15 years of experience with horses and a vision for how they can help children who need it. She looked around the table. I'm not asking for blind trust. I'm asking for a chance to prove this program can work. Uncle Robert chuckled. Well said, young lady. I vote we approve the pilot program for 1 year with quarterly reviews. Seconded, said Melissa with a smile. One by one, the board members voiced their approval, until only Harrington remained. With obvious reluctance, he nodded. For the record, I still have reservations, but I will not oppose the majority. The meeting moved on to other business, and Hannah slipped out, relief washing over her. In the hallway, she leaned against the wall, taking deep breaths. Congratulations, a voice said. Hannah turned to see Melissa approaching. You handled that perfectly. Thanks to your warning, Hannah replied. And Luke's support. Melissa's expression became serious. Hannah, there's something else you should know. Something about Luke. Hannah felt a cold knot form in her stomach. What is it? It's not my place to tell you, Melissa said, glancing toward the closed meeting room door. But ask him about Jennifer Warren. If you and Luke are getting serious, you deserve to know. Before Hannah could question her further, the board meeting ended and members began filing out. Luke approached with a wide smile. They approved it, he said, hugging her tightly. I told you they would. Hannah returned his embrace, but her mind was racing. Jennifer Warren. The name meant nothing to her, yet Melissa clearly thought it significant. That evening, the board members and a few key staff gathered for a celebration dinner. Hannah wore a simple blue dress, the nicest thing she owned, feeling out of place, among the designer clothes and casual displays of wealth. Luke, handsome in a dark suit, stayed by her side most of the evening, proudly introducing her as the visionary behind our newest initiative. Hannah accepted congratulations graciously, but the question burned in her mind. Who was Jennifer Warren? After dinner, as guests mingled over coffee and dessert, Hannah noticed James Harrington in deep conversation with a woman she hadn't met, elegant, poised, with the confident air of someone accustomed to wealth. The woman glanced in Hannah's direction, said something to Harrington, and then approached. You must be Hannah Reed, she said, extending a perfectly manicured hand. I'm Catherine Warren, a family friend. I understand you're starting a riding program for children, Warren. Hannah's pulse quickened. Yes, that's right. My daughter worked with horses too. She loved them. Catherine's smile didn't reach her eyes. Jennifer had such a way with animals. Hannah tried to keep her expression neutral. Had? Jennifer passed away 3 years ago. Catherine's gaze drifted to Luke, who was speaking with his uncle across the room. She was engaged to Luke at the time. Didn't he mention her? The room seemed to tilt slightly. No, Hannah managed, he didn't. How curious. Catherine's voice held a sharp edge beneath its polished surface. They were together for 5 years. The wedding was only a month away when the accident happened. Hannah felt as though she'd been struck. Luke had been engaged to someone who died. How could he not have shared something so significant? Excuse me, she murmured, needing air. She slipped out onto the terrace, the cool night air a relief after the suffocating revelation. Luke had kept another secret, one far more personal than his wealth. A fiancée who died, a woman he had loved enough to plan a future with. Hannah heard the terrace door open behind her and knew without turning that it was Luke. Hannah, are you okay? She faced him, seeing concern in his eyes. Who was Jennifer Warren? Luke froze, the color draining from his face. Who told you about Jennifer? Does it matter? You should have told me yourself. Hannah wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly cold. You promised no more secrets, Luke. He stepped forward, then stopped when she moved back. It's complicated, Hannah. Then uncomplicate it, she demanded. Was she your fiancée? Luke closed his eyes briefly. Yes. And she died? 3 years ago. A riding accident. His voice was hollow. She was exercising a new horse, one I'd bought her as an engagement gift. The horse spooked through her. She hit her head. Hannah felt sick. No wonder he'd been so concerned when she fell from Starlight. I'm sorry for your loss, Luke. Truly. But why keep it from me? We've spent months together. You knew how important honesty was to me after the whole wealth deception. Because it's not just about Jennifer dying, Luke said, his voice strained. It's about what happened after. The horse that threw her, the terrace door opened again and Harrington appeared. Luke, the Hendersons are leaving. They'd like to say goodbye. Luke hesitated, clearly torn. Go, Hannah said quietly. We can finish this conversation later. As Luke reluctantly followed Harrington inside, Hannah remained on the terrace, staring out at the darkened ranch grounds. Another secret. Another layer of Luke Walker she hadn't known existed. How many more were there? And more importantly, could she trust her heart to a man who kept parts of himself locked away? What Hannah didn't know was that inside, Catherine Warren was watching her. Through the window, a calculating smile playing at her lips. The game she had set in motion was just beginning. Hannah barely slept that night, her mind racing with questions about Jennifer Warren and what Luke had been about to say before they were interrupted. By morning, she had made a decision. She would hear Luke out, but she needed time alone first to process everything. She left the main house early, leaving a note saying she needed to return to her cabin. As she walked across the misty grounds, Hannah noticed Catherine Warren's car still parked in the driveway. The woman had stayed overnight, another family friend with access to Luke's world that Hannah knew nothing about. Back in her cabin, Hannah made coffee and sat on her small porch, watching the sun rise over the mountains. The beauty of the ranch, a beauty she'd come to love, now felt tainted by secrets and half-truths. Her phone buzzed with a text from Luke. Can we talk? I'll come to you, she replied. Not yet, I need time. Around noon, a knock at her door broke her solitude. Hannah opened it, expecting Luke, but found Melissa instead. Mind if I come in? Melissa asked, her usual confidence subdued. Hannah stepped aside. If you're here to defend your brother... I'm not, Melissa interrupted, sitting on the sofa. I told you to ask him about Jennifer because you deserved to know, but there's more to the story than you might think. Hannah crossed her arms. Then tell me. It's not my story to tell, Melissa said. But I will say this. Jennifer's death nearly destroyed Luke, not just because he loved her, but because of what happened afterward. What do you mean? Melissa hesitated. Catherine Warren and her husband blamed Luke for the accident. They sued. Him tried to take control of part of Walker Holdings. It was ugly. They lost, but the damage was done. Hannah frowned. If they blamed him so much, why is Catherine here now, acting like a family friend? That's what you should be asking, Melissa said pointedly, along with why James Harrington has been meeting privately with her. Before Hannah could question her further, Melissa stood. I've said too much already. Just hear Luke out, okay? My brother has made mistakes, but his feelings for you are real. After Melissa left, Hannah paced her small cabin, more confused than ever. Why would Catherine Warren pretend to be friendly if she blamed Luke for her daughter's death? And what was Harrington's role in all this? Her phone buzzed again. Luke. Please, Hannah, I need to explain everything. This time she agreed to meet him at the lakeside spot he'd shown her after the fall festival. Luke was already there when she arrived. An hour later, sitting on a fallen log looking out over the water. He stood when he heard her approach, and Hannah's heart ached at the shadows under his eyes. Clearly he hadn't slept either. Thank you for coming, he said. Hannah sat on the log, leaving space between them. Tell me everything, Luke. No more partial truths. Luke took a deep breath. Jennifer and I met at a charity event 6 years ago. She was beautiful, from a good family. Everyone thought we were perfect together. He paused. Maybe we were on paper. Did you love her? Hannah asked quietly. Yes, but not... He struggled to find the words. Our relationship was comfortable, expected. Our families had known each other for generations. The Warrens aren't as wealthy as they once were, but the name still carries weight. Hannah nodded, understanding more than Luke might realize about social expectations. We got engaged after 2 years, Luke continued. The wedding was set for June 3 years ago. A month before, I bought her a horse, a thoroughbred named Midnight. She was an experienced rider, but his voice broke. The horse spooked during a morning ride. No one saw exactly what happened. By the time the stable hand found her, it was too late. Hannah felt tears prick her eyes. I'm so sorry, Luke. After the funeral, things got ugly, Luke said, his expression hardening. Richard Warren, Jennifer's father, claimed I knew the horse was dangerous, that I was negligent. They filed a lawsuit claiming I was responsible for their daughter's death. That's horrible, Hannah said, genuinely shocked. It gets worse. During the legal proceedings, they tried to use an old business agreement to claim part ownership of Walker Holdings. They said Jennifer had been promised shares as a wedding gift. Hannah frowned. Was she? No. We'd discussed it, but nothing was ever formalized. Luke ran a hand through his hair. The case dragged on for over a year. The Warrens lost. There was no evidence the horse was dangerous and nothing in writing about company shares. But by then they'd dragged my name through the mud in the press. If all that's true, why is Catherine here now, acting like nothing happened? Luke's expression darkened. That's what I was going to tell you last night. 2 months ago, Richard Warren died. After the funeral, Catherine approached me, claiming she wanted to make amends. Said Richard had been driven by grief, that she never believed I was at fault. And you believed her? I wanted to, Luke admitted. The lawsuit hurt the company's reputation. Having the Warrens publicly reconcile with us would help put it behind us. Hannah considered this. What does James Harrington have to do with all this? Luke looked surprised. How did you know about James and Catherine? I saw them talking, and Melissa mentioned it. Luke sighed. James was against reconciling with Catherine. He never trusted her motives, but I overruled him. And now? Hannah asked. Now I'm not sure. Luke met her eyes. The last few weeks, James has been acting strangely, opposing the riding program, scheduling meetings without telling me, and Catherine's sudden appearance at the board dinner. It wasn't planned. Hannah felt pieces clicking into place. Luke, is the company really having financial troubles? He looked away. Yes, the Colorado project was a significant loss. We're not in danger of bankruptcy, but we've had to scale back, reassess our holdings. Could the Warrens benefit from that? Luke stared at her. What are you suggesting? I don't know exactly, Hannah said, thinking aloud. But Catherine shows up right when you're facing financial challenges. James is acting strange. And suddenly they're both against a program that has nothing to do with company profits. Luke stood abruptly. I need to check something. Will you come with me? They drove back to the main house in tense silence. Luke led Hannah to his study and unlocked a file cabinet. These are the original agreements between the Walker and Warren families, he explained, spreading documents on his desk. Going back decades, our families have had various business partnerships. Hannah watched as he flipped through pages. What are you looking for? There was a clause. Luke stopped suddenly, pointing to a paragraph. Here, if Walker Holdings ever falls below a certain valuation, the Warrens have right of first refusal on any assets sold to cover debts. What does that mean? It means if we need to sell property or business units, they get first chance to buy at a predetermined price set years ago. Luke looked up, realization dawning. Catherine doesn't want reconciliation. She wants the ranch. Hannah frowned. But you said the company isn't in danger. We're not, unless someone made it look worse than it is. Luke began searching through more recent files. James has been handling negotiations on several deals lately. If those fell through, his phone rang. He answered, his expression growing darker as he listened. I'll be right there. Hanging up, he turned to Hannah. That was Melissa. James called an emergency board meeting. He says he has concerns about company leadership. Hannah felt a cold knot in her stomach. He's making a move against you. And Catherine is involved somehow. Luke grabbed his keys. I have to go. I'm coming with you, Hannah said firmly. They arrived at the corporate offices in town 30 minutes later. Melissa met them in the lobby, her face tense. James has the board in the conference room, she said. Catherine Warren is with them. They're claiming you've mismanaged company assets, that you're emotionally compromised. On what grounds? Luke demanded. The riding program, for one. They're saying you diverted company resources for a personal project? That's ridiculous, Hannah protested. The program uses foundation funds, not company money. They have documents suggesting otherwise, Melissa said grimly. Documents with your signature, Luke. Luke's face hardened. Forgeries. Let's end this now. In the boardroom, James Harrington stood at the head of the table. Catherine Warren sat nearby, a satisfied smile on her face. Board members looked confused and concerned. Luke, Harrington said smoothly, we were just discussing some troubling financial discrepancies. Save it, James, Luke said coldly. I know what you're doing. And what might that be? Catherine asked, her voice silk over steel. Using old agreements to try to gain control of Walker assets, Luke replied. Starting with this ranch. Harrington's expression remained neutral, but Hannah noticed a flicker of surprise in his eyes. The board has concerns about your leadership, Luke. Your father would be disappointed. My father would be disgusted by your betrayal, Luke cut in. 30 years as our family attorney, and you're willing to throw it away for what? A payoff from Catherine? An uncomfortable silence fell over the room. Uncle Robert cleared his throat. Luke, these are serious allegations. James has shown us. Documents, forgeries, Luke said, his voice steady. And I can prove it. He explained the right of first refusal clause, how Catherine stood to gain if the company appeared to be failing. He detailed the suspicious timing of deals falling through, meetings scheduled without his knowledge, and most importantly, he finished, the therapeutic riding program that James claims diverted company funds is fully financed by the foundation. The accounting is completely separate. Board members exchanged glances. Daniel, one of Luke's cousins, spoke up. If what you're saying is true, it's a serious breach of fiduciary duty on James's part. It's more than that, Melissa added. It's fraud. Catherine stood, her composure slipping. This is absurd. I came here in good faith. You came here to take advantage of a perceived weakness, Luke corrected. Just like 3 years ago when you and Richard tried to use Jennifer's death to gain control of Walker Holdings. Harrington gathered his papers. I think this meeting is over. I agree, Luke said. And so is your employment with the Walker family. Security was called, and both Harrington and Catherine were escorted from the building. The board voted unanimously to launch an investigation into Harrington's actions. An emergency audit would determine if any actual damage had been done to company finances. Hours later, Luke and Hannah sat on the porch of her cabin, emotionally drained but relieved. I can't believe James would betray you like that, Hannah said, after all those years with your family. Money changes people, Luke said wearily, or reveals who they truly are. Hannah took his hand. I'm sorry I doubted you. About Jennifer, about all of it. You had every right to question me, Luke said. I should have told you everything from the beginning. We both have trust issues, Hannah admitted. Mine from being abandoned by my parents, yours from people wanting you for your money. But at some point we have to decide to trust anyway. Luke squeezed her hand. When I'm with you, Hannah, I'm not a Walker or a businessman or anything else. I'm just me, and that's enough. It always was, she said softly. The next morning, Hannah woke early and walked to the stables, finding comfort in the familiar routine of feeding the horses. The events of the past few days had been overwhelming, but one thing was clear. Her feelings for Luke hadn't changed. If anything, seeing him fight for his family's legacy had only deepened them. She was brushing Starlight when she heard footsteps. Behind her, Luke stood in the stable doorway, a gentle smile on his face. The board meeting went well, he said. The investigation into James and Catherine is proceeding, and the audit shows no lasting damage to company finances. That's wonderful, Hannah said. And the riding program? Fully approved and funded. We can break ground on the renovations next week. Luke stepped closer. I owe you an apology, Hannah, not just for keeping secrets, but for somehow making you feel less important than you are. Hannah shook her head. You don't owe me anything, Luke. I do, he insisted. When I let you believe I was just another ranch hand, it wasn't only about protecting myself from fortune hunters. It was about protecting myself from feeling too much. He took her hands in his. Because from the moment I met you, I knew you could be someone special in my life. Hannah felt tears prick her eyes. I was afraid too. Afraid that someone like you, with all you have, all you know, couldn't possibly be interested in someone like me. Someone like you? Luke repeated. You mean someone honest, hard-working, and brave enough to stand up for what's right? Someone who sees the real me behind the Walker name. He touched her cheek gently. Hannah Reed, you're exactly who I want. He kissed her then, a kiss that felt like coming home after a long journey. When they broke apart, Luke rested his forehead against hers. I love you, he said simply. No more secrets. No more pretending to be something I'm not. I love you too, Hannah replied. The real you. Luke Walker, horse lover, guitar player, sunrise watcher. The man who wants to help children heal through horses. 6 months later, the therapeutic riding program welcomed its first participants. Hannah stood in the newly renovated South Stable, watching as children with various special needs were introduced to the gentle horses, specially trained for the program. Luke appeared beside her, wrapping an arm around her. A waist. You did this, he said proudly. Look at their faces. Hannah leaned into him, her heart full as she watched a small girl with leg braces giggle when a pony nuzzled her hand. We did this. Together. That evening, Luke took Hannah to their special spot by the lake. The spring air was warm and wildflowers dotted the meadow with splashes of color. I've been thinking, Luke said as they sat on their usual log watching the sunset. I need a full-time director for the riding program. Hannah smiled. I thought that was my job already. It is, he agreed, but I was hoping you might consider taking on another role as well. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, wooden box. Hannah's breath caught as he opened it to reveal a simple but beautiful diamond ring. This isn't the Walker family heirloom, he said. That didn't seem right for us. This is new, like what we're building together. Luke, Hannah whispered, tears filling her eyes. He took her hand. Hannah Reed, you came to this ranch looking for a fresh start and found your purpose. I was already here but lost in expectations and old wounds. You helped me find myself again. He smiled. Will you marry me? Not because I'm a walker or because of what I own, but because of who we are together. Yes, Hannah said without hesitation. I'll marry you, Luke Walker, the man who fixes fence posts, plays guitar on summer nights, and understands that true wealth has nothing to do with money. As Luke slipped the ring onto her finger and pulled her into his arms, Hannah knew they'd faced their final secret. Whatever challenges came next, they would face them together. Two people who had learned that the richest treasures aren't found in bank accounts or business empires, but in the hidden riches of the heart. Across the E Ranch, the riding program's horses settled into their stalls for the night. Starlight, once temperamental and distrustful, now stood calmly as a therapy horse, helping children find confidence and joy. Like his owners, he had found his true purpose, proving that sometimes the most unlikely beginnings can lead to the most beautiful endings. In the distance, the Walker mansion stood against the darkening sky, its lights welcoming rather than intimidating. It wasn't just a symbol of wealth anymore. It was becoming a home, a place where the past could be honored without controlling the future, where new traditions could grow alongside the old. And as the first stars appeared in the twilight sky, Luke and Hannah walked hand in hand back toward the ranch, not as owner and employee, not as wealthy and working class, but simply as two people who had discovered that when you strip away all the external trappings of life, what remains is what truly matters: love, trust, and the courage to believe in both. End.